first of all, why don't we do this? Since this is the first time we're doing this ever, fully online exhibition. If you're able to, can you just, turn on your camera for about a minute and just say a hi to Tony and Peter and everyone else, just acknowledge each other saying, we're really grateful, Tony, that you're joining us here today. So just say hi, and then I'll kind of get started on that. So I don't want to spend a whole lot of time, but there are a few things that I do want to go ahead and relate to you all. First of all, my name is Dave Moon. I'm one of the professors here at Cal State Northridge. On behalf of the entire CSUN community, particularly from a communication design student, we want to thank everyone for joining us here today here. The exhibition imported from Brooklyn highlighting Tony DiSpigna's work. How we got here has been a long process, and we're absolutely thrilled to launch the exhibition. I know Josh will introduce Tony and Ellen properly a little later, but I just want to, again, on behalf of the whole entire CSUN community, Tony, that we were so thankful, honored to have your work here on the West Coast. And I know that—
It's my pleasure to be invited. That's great.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I know that we have other plans to send your work to share with the other communities. So
I see Ellen's going to join us.
Yes.
Wow.
Where are you, Ellen?
I just checked into my hotel room in downtown LA.
Oh.
After an insane 2-hour wait at the car rental place and then driving here during rush hour, and I made it to the room at 5:01. So my hair's not combed or anything, but I am ready.
You look great.
Well,
I have some
give us a sec. Yeah, give us a second in here, and then I just want to just take another minute and just properly thank some people, and then I'm going to turn it over to Josh and Joe in here. So, like I said, this exhibition here, just to be here together, this moment, it's a celebration. We had planned this exhibition over 2 years ago, in-person gallery exhibition, and we had all these different activities and so forth. Then the COVID hit, So throughout this past 2 years, we've really been hoping and changing and modifying that we would make this in-person happen. But number of hurdles came through us, brought us to number of hurdles. And we finally decided late last year that why don't we put together a 100% online exhibition? And Tony graciously said, yes, let's do this. But not only we wanted as knowing that we were going to do this 100% online, kind of gave us a different opportunities to add to the exhibition. And what I mean by that is not only we're celebrating all the work that Tony has done and the impact that Tony has made throughout the design community, we also wanted to tap into those individuals that actually Tony had directly mentored or worked with or inspired them. And there's been quite a few people. So we're really delighted that Peter's joining us and Ellen's joining us. There's a number of other speakers that are going to be joining us on every Friday at 5 p.m. starting today. So we want to thank all those individuals that are going to be actively participating with us in here. Having said that, putting something like together, whether it's in person or online, takes a tremendous number of individuals. And I have to thank one person who actually planted the whole thing. And unfortunately couldn't be here today, Douglas Davis, who is a true visionary, a pioneer on his own, who's actually a student of Tony's work. And Douglas Davis is a person who actually planted about this exhibition, and really are thankful that Douglas gave us that opportunity to connect with Tony, and we're here today. The other individuals that we want to quickly thank is Joe Bautista. Joe, when we first approached it, he jumped right in 2 years ago saying, sure, this is something that'd be unique for our students in our program. So he not only actually directly worked with the students, but he met with students countlessly, hour and hour, and guiding them, making sure that our exhibition is where we are now today. So Joe deserves a big round of applause in here. So let's give Joe a big round of applause. There were too many people, as you know, Tony and Joe knows, that countless students for past 2 years that actually helped launch this exhibition. And there are too many students to name, of course, but there's this one person, his name is Josh, who's here with us. Josh actually single-handedly spearheaded this whole exhibition for 2 years. And mind you, I believe he's only a sophomore, right? And so that's unbelievable.
Wow.
It's not a graduate student, it's not a senior yet, it's just a young kid and who actually matures so much this past 2 years. So Josh, we are so grateful and thankful to your work, man, all the hard work you've done. So let's give Josh a big round of applause here. Right?
Josh.
So I just simply wanted to thank you again, Tony, for allowing us to see your work, share your work and all the help that you've supported us. And we're delighted that you're here with us. And this is just only beginning. So I want to remind everyone who's joining us today that starting today, consecutive next 5 weeks, we're going to have a speakers coming in here at 5 o'clock. So please join us, and let other people know who wants to learn about topography. So I'm going to stop here and just saying, Josh, if you could, introduce Tony and Ellen, that'd be great.
Yeah, thank you, Dave. So as you know, welcome to Import from Brooklyn. This is 2 years in the making, and I'm very glad to see you all here today. So Tony DiSpigna is a communication designer based in, you guessed it, Brooklyn, New York. While he is known for his distinctive style, DiSpigna's skill and talent transcends mediums beyond hand lettering, being able to successfully communicate his clientele's voice and message with each design he creates. He had his start at the famed Llewellyn Studios and has gone on to start his own studio, Thin Stroke, where he sells many of his typefaces and also inspires many designers globally across the world for the last 50 years. Much like Tony, Ellen Shapiro had her start at Llewellyn Studios. Opposite to where Tony was from, Ellen Shapiro was actually import from LA, graduating from UCLA magna cum laude of her class. She started at Llewellyn Studios the same time as Tony did. Shapiro is a communication designer and creative director at her firm, Visual Language LLC, with a mission to help local, national, and international clients achieve their business and creative goals. Shapiro has gone on to write 3 books and hundreds of magazine articles and posts on design practice, design education, firms, personalities, events, and cultural trends around the world. And I shall bring it to Ellen and Tony, who are our first guest speakers of this event. Thank you.
Okay. So who's going to be asking questions?
Well, well, first, why don't we do this in here? I think, Josh said it really eloquently. Maybe just take a few minutes, Tony, from starting with you first, and maybe then by Ellen, and just tell us a little bit about yourself, your own words, right? And then I think that then we'll go ahead and do some follow-up questions. And I think Ellen's got some questions too, as well.
Well, talking about myself, what can I say? My God. My background before I went into communication design was totally slicing bologna in a cold cut counter in a small grocery store. And I was so goddamn bored that I had to change career-wise. And my choice was to become a plumber, which is what my mom wanted. No. And which I didn't want to go from one terrible job to another terrible job. So in high school, what I loved was the art classes where we did silk screening and stuff like that. So I thought I knew I was not going to be, a fine artist. I didn't have the talent, or I knew I would not be able to make a living doing that. So I thought maybe I should go into commercial art, which what most of the art departments in school at that time were called, commercial art departments. And from there, I went on to, when I graduated from that city college, a 2-year program, I went on to Pratt Institute. I graduated, I spent 3 years there, graduated in 1967. And the summer I graduated, I got 3 or 4 different jobs. And then I landed a job at Bonder and Carnesi, which Carnesi is Tom Carnesi, who worked with Lou Ballin for many years and eventually became a partner of Lou Ballin. And I started working for Tom Carnesi. And then eventually when he joined Lou Ballin Associates, I went along with him. And I started out as an employee, eventually became a partner. And that's pretty much my background. And I've been working for Lou Ballin for most of my career as Tom's principal assistant. Then when I became a partner, I designed my own work and got into the full aspects of communication design. And as Ellen can testify, we did everything from film to campaigns to posters to book jackets, to you name it in the communications field. We did. Everybody came to us, even advertising agencies came to us to design campaigns to get an outside different viewpoint. And Herb Lou Ballin had, I don't know if anybody knows this, but Herb Lou Ballin had won the Clio Award, which is like the Oscar for campaign. And it was just a wonderful place to work because it was in a brownstone. It's like leaving home, going to another home.
You know, Californians don't know what a brownstone is.
Yeah, I was going to say the same
I
thing.
think you should describe it.
A brownstone is like a 3-4-story building made of stone. I mean, it's limestone or whatever the hell they call it. It's not a brick house. It's made of. They're beautiful. As a matter of fact, they're very expensive nowadays. If you wanted to buy a brownstone.
Many millions, but they're narrow. Unlike apartment buildings, it's a single family, generally started as a single family house with a garden and a roof deck, things that you don't find in New York City everywhere. Now, a lot of them have been cut up.
Well, you and I were in a brownstone building, and then we went on to, the partners went on to buy a firehouse.
Yeah, I never actually went there.
Yeah, from Otto Storch, who used to be the art director of Show Magazine, I believe it was, yeah. And
I'm only a transplanted Californian, so I know what a brownstone is.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I remember when I was going to the School of Visual Arts, there was a pushpin was in a beautiful little brownstone.
And
Oh,
Pushpin was
yeah.
1 block behind us. So we were on 223 East 31st.
East 31st, and they were on 32nd Street.
32nd, right behind, in a brownstone right behind.
Nice.
And it's a much more beautiful brownstone, yeah.
But Milton Glaser had his office there until he died, which was just last year.
I remember his rep or somebody lived on the top floor, I think.
That I don't know.
Yeah, because we loft sat for a weekend as students because my wife at the time worked there as a receptionist.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they let us stay in the building. We had the whole building for a weekend. It was amazing.
Yeah.
But not to interrupt your.
No, but that was, again, the environment, the work environment was fantastic. Herb allowed us to do pretty much whatever we wanted, as long as we met the deadlines and we did the work. And that was the only criteria. And it was a small family. It really was. It was what, about 15 to 20 people, I think, you know, and that's what made it beautiful, because I remember when I first got out of school being interviewed at advertising agencies, seeing those people in a cubicle, you know, I felt I didn't like that at all. You felt like going to work and going into a phone booth to work, you know, and but the brownstone environment and the family environment, everybody knew who they were, what they're doing. And as I said, it was a work family. That's what made it enjoyable for me to get up in the morning, and I looked forward to going to work. I mean, how many people can say that, really enjoy getting up in the morning to go to work? Yeah.
Nice to have a community surrounding you.
Yeah.
Like-minded people. That's a precious thing. Yeah.
Peter Greco. Okay.
Ellen, what's your version?
Yeah.
Well, I put together a bunch of slides last night, of things that I had. I actually took slides and photographed them with my iPhone on a light box from really old work from the Llewellyn days, and then projects that we did together over the years. Show how Llewellyn's style and influenced me in every project that I did, or many projects that I did, and also to show people during this, you know, whatever we're going to call it, this Zoom meeting, what it was like to be a graphic designer in the days before there were computers. You know,
Exactly.
we use Crow quill pens and ruling
Right.
pens and X-Acto knives, and we
T
made
squares, yeah.
all this, yeah, and I still use them to make mock-ups.
Me
and
too. Me
stuff.
too.
The kids today, students today don't have any. So if I can share screen.
Well, Ellen, if I may in there, so I know Josh has a number of questions that prepare for this. I know that we're trying to kind of get going, and then we asked also these the participant to ask questions. So we know
you direct.
Yeah,
you direct.
Yeah, but leave time for those images. I want to see them.
Absolutely. No.
Okay.
We are now a little more familiar with Tony's work, and but Ellen, can you spend maybe just a few minutes just kind of in your own words of who you are, and so.
Oh, sure.
And then we'll kind of have you maybe show some work, and then Josh has some questions.
Okay, well, I grew up in Inglewood. Actually, I was born in Hollywood. I grew up in Inglewood, moved to Westwood when I became a UCLA student. And it wasn't called commercial art at UCLA. They made that really clear. If you want to be a commercial artist, go to Art Center. Here you are, you're in a university, and half the classes had to be out of the art department. So literature, history, languages, and the classes in the art department, half of them had to be art history. And then of the classes that were studio classes, half of them had to be drawing, life drawing. But we also did some mechanical drawing and learned how to use tools like a ruling pen and T-square and triangle. We also worked with metals, plastics, clay, fabric. So they wanted to educate us as the most well-rounded designers possible, who could solve any kind of design problem, quote unquote. Like the Los Angeles Zoo in Griffith Park became a class assignment with John Newhart, who was a colleague and partner of Charles Eames. So Charles Eames was God in the UCLA design department, mid-century modern, and natural use of natural materials. There was sort of a certain kind of aesthetics that were pounded into our heads. And then everybody graduated and couldn't get a job. Luckily, since I had to support myself and work my way through school, my parents, who were European immigrants, my mom was sort of I guess I could say she was a Holocaust survivor, and they were not helpful in any way. Here I am at USC, where the parents of a young lady who's going to be performing tomorrow at the Los Angeles Times Music Festival. I mean, the parents do everything for her. And my parents basically said, if you want to go to college, goodbye. And they didn't give me any support. So I had to work. And I found that between a scholarship that I was able to get, even though it was free at the time, there were still books, there were still living expenses, there were still art supplies. So eventually I got a job working at a little agency in West LA, and I got a job working for the Daily Brew and selling advertising. And I would go around to the little shops in Westwood Village and sell them on advertising. And because I could draw, I would draw it was like everybody wore Indian print dresses and long earrings, and we all came from the 50s, actually, where you were supposed to dress up to go to high school. And then suddenly it was jeans and, so I could do ads. And I would sell the local Westwood Village merchants you know, on a quarter page ad or whatever, and design and do the ad and do mechanicals for them. So I learned on these jobs how to have some of the skills. And after I graduated, I was hired immediately by Fredericks of Hollywood to design. Does everybody know what Fredericks of Hollywood is? And at the time, their customers were mostly, you know, there was no other place, there was no Amazon where you could get your push-up bras or your see-through negligees and all that stuff. And they wanted immediately to promote me to studio manager. I said, no, 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 thanks. And luckily, a job opened up at UCLA Alumni Association to be the art director. And they hired me at the great salary of $7,200 a year, which at the time, 1970, 71, was a pretty decent salary to live on, and $79 a month apartment in West LA. And, you know, I started winning awards. First of all, I discovered her Blue Balance work. We used to send out for type. So I designed the UCLA Monthly and UCLA posters for different departments and things like brochure for African Studies Department or brochure for the Asian Studies Department. And I started entering my stuff in like the Art Directors Club of Los Angeles, New York, the Type Directors Club, and caught her Blue Balance attention. So I just decided to come to New York on vacation. I'd never been, no, it's not true. I'd never been out of California. I'd been out of California once to the Aspen Design Conference where Ivan Chermayeff, Henry Wolf, and other big names were there. And it's like, that was really exciting. And some of the professors from UCLA, Gil Rios, who I thought had taught after UCLA at what was then called Cal State Northridge, you know, and was chairman of the design department. He and I sort of became friends. I took 2 or 3 classes with him. And I kind of caught Herb's attention when I visited New York. I showed him my work on slides. And I really didn't want to move to New York. I liked it here. I had a Carmen Ghia convertible. I drove, you know, I'm like spending my weekends driving on Pacific Coast Highway, going to the beach. I thought New York was like insane. But I showed her my work and I said, if you had a job, would you hire me? A job opening? He said, sure. So when I came back here, I told my friends about it and they said, Herb Llewellyn offered you a job. Did you hear that? This is not an easy thing to do. You should take it. So I thought about it. Then I wrote him a letter and said, I think you offered me a job and I think I might like to take it. He said, you know, I see a lot of people here. I sort of remember you and your work. It was good. Send me some samples. So I put all this UCLA stuff plus freelance jobs that I'd done in a carton and sent it to him. And I actually had a letterhead with script, you know, that somebody locally here in LA did for me. And he wrote back and he said, my partner, Ernie Smith, is leaving. Can you start April 1st? And that was April 1st, 1972.
Oh.
Most of you weren't even born then. So that's the story. But you know what? It was a family. It was lovely. It was in a brownstone. And then I missed other stuff. I missed art directing photography. I missed working with color. I missed working with language because we did, you know, it was like, after a while, it was like, what am I doing? I'm cutting apart type and pasting it together again, tighter, you know, it's like so I went around and I got a few other jobs and eventually I opened my own firm. But I think leaving was not the smartest idea. I should have stayed. I think the advice that I would give to students today is pick the best people that are doing the best work and stay with them. Working on your own is almost impossible now. Because look, everybody can get it almost for free, you know, unless you're a really top agency. And work as part of a team, work in a good agency, work in a good studio, or figure out how you're going to do it with a couple of partners. So,
well,
my story.
No, this is great. Save some of that for some questions that Josh has prepared. I know that you also have a short presentation that you want to share.
Yeah.
Kind of, revisiting some of the historical work, iconic work that a lot of us are familiar with, but quite frankly, a lot of us students may not be familiar with. So
yeah, I don't think what I'm going to show you're going to be familiar with.
so I think that, but
Yeah.
these are all the tribute to
Yeah.
all the work before us that we
Yeah.
continue to build on it. So Ellen, so if you don't mind, maybe you could kind of maybe share some work, and then Josh, did you want to do some questions the following the presentation? How did you want to do that?
I guess we could do following the presentation. That
Okay.
might be good.
Yeah, I think that would be better.
Okay, go ahead, Ellen.
Okay, so I'm going to open Adobe Bridge, and I'm going to share screen if you give me permission. Participants can now see your screen. Okay, so I wanted to start off with the first thing I decided was to put together, just to take a screenshot of my Instagram page from the beginning. What I decided to do was do these checkerboard square things and show some of my really old work and working up to the new work. So this work was done between, UCLA 1972, this logo, and the things that I did with Tony, Alliance International Fund, the O'Neill Theater Center, the
Joffrey Ballet, yeah.
Definitely the Joffrey Ballet, and I have more of that to show, where, as a designer, I'm also really what I think they call an art director, where I could say, I can't do this by myself, I need a hand letterer, because that's what I grew up with at Lou Ballin Studio. You did a sketch, or Herb did a sketch, and then it goes to Tom Carnase, or it goes to Tony, and Tony makes it happen, makes it beautiful. So
you did the HBO. I love that. What happened? They didn't buy that, did they?
You know what? I won out over Herb. He also did some HBOs. So I took the HBO, and you know who worked with me on this? Mark Huey, who was a Jamaican guy. And one thing is, Herb hired as many, and this was very unfashionable in 1972, to hire as many minority people as he could and give them an opportunity to work in the business and in the studio. And so Tony and I did different things. One of the things that I worked on was the first couple of issues of UNLC. And this really shows Herb's style of filling every inch, of the page with something typographic. And we had to paste this together on boards. There was no such thing as Adobe InDesign, where you could set up your page and your column grid, and you could make it fit. You had to figure out, and we would send out for type, meaning you get the manuscript that was typed and you write down, I'll just pick something. 10 on 12, serif Gothic, flush left, rag right, X, 15 picas wide. And you had to figure this out mathematically, that it was going to fit in the space that you had. And if it didn't, it had to go back and pay. You had to pay more. And type for pages like this could easily cost, hundreds of dollars. It would be thousands of dollars for the whole issue. So you better know what you're doing. Now, this was one of the pages that Herb would give me a scribble. So I don't know, Tony, did you do any?
Oh, that's Tom Carnase.
This is all Tom's stuff.
Yeah.
But this is a page about Spencerian, and you can see what happens to
Yeah.
Herb loved newsprint, and he loved the feel of printing on newsprint and keeping these hairlines, really sharp on newsprint. These were all done with Crow Quill pen. And, if you say to somebody today, we're going to do hand lettering, they don't even know what you're talking about. Well, can't you get a font? You're never going to get a font that's going to do anything like this. Although I do have one typeface that at least I can get some initials, but I would paste it all together according
You
to,
can now get fonts. You can now get fonts, DiSpigna, see,
oh yeah,
Dispense, and Spignerian script.
oh boy, and it's going to have all these curly cues that you can add, the swatches.
No, you can design with the basic stuff, and then you have to hire me to add the stuff.
Hire you, but the client doesn't want to pay to hire anybody. So ultimately, after Herb died, they needed to find a new art director, and they had a contest. And I won the contest. Yay. So let me see if I can open this one in Photoshop because I want to get really close to it and use my little tool here to blow it up. But to do a layout like this, I traced the letters. We all traced the letters. You know, you had to either hand letter them or you trace them to show exactly how you wanted to look, what the spacing was like, what the ligatures were like between the T and the U. I'm going to cut it and move it over. And the grid, you know, and these are going to be 50% tint of gray, and this is going to be 30%. This is a typeface I want to use. We used ITC typefaces because that's what UNLC was all about. It was a vehicle to sell typefaces that were designed by, among other people, Tony DiSpigna and Tom Carnase and others. Let's go to, so you can see this was all drawn by hand. So stuff that you can do today, and I'm not going to give you a time period, but let's say a few hours where you're moving stuff around in InDesign or in Illustrator, and you're kerning in an Illustrator, click, 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 and this was all, you have to think, you have to figure it out by hand, you have to draw it, and then you order the type to fit, and you cut it apart, and you make a mechanical board, which I'll show you later. So anyway, I won this contest to be art director of UNLC, and these were a couple of, let's see if I can make this, all the people's faces go away. Can you see the layouts well, you guys?
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, so UNLC, I brought a different kind of style to it, which wasn't cramming every inch with stuff, but, you know, kind of dark and light and some white space. And this was a super fun gig. And there were a couple, the people who worked at ITC would give me the stories. Okay, this is a story about this scribe to the Queen of England. And here's a bunch of art pieces. And the typeface you're supposed to use is, say, ITC Garamond. And you've got 4 pages, and we want it on the cover. So that was one of them. Another one was this story about Japanese kanji and how this particular artist. So people around the world were always sending their stuff in to UNLC to get it featured. And they had plenty to choose from. Then I have another example here of how this type of approach could be applied to other things. So this is a photograph that I made last night. I just put this old comp that I saved since 1984 for the Asia Society, choosing a typeface, choosing colors, choosing a paper stock, which was textured off-white or cream paper, using Prismacolor pencils on a light box and tracing my design. But one thing, the Herb thing, right, Tony? Lining it up. You had to figure, not only does every letter look beautiful, every ligature or space between the letters looks beautiful. The whole composition looks beautiful because it aligns perfectly. That's when I see that, the Met, you know, the Metropolitan Museum thing. It doesn't line up. It looks crazy to me.
Yeah.
We knew how to hang things out. So optically it lines up. anyway, the client did not buy this, but I loved it. And I have to say, like a lot of designers, some of my best work is in the flat files,
Yeah.
so the client doesn't understand it. I was looking at it again last night and thinking, well, maybe they didn't like that 1984 was so big because that was like a literary, you know, a bad year. So, but it just gives you an idea of the amount of handwork that went into this stuff. Well, they decided after that they were going to have a whole bunch of different designers work on UNLC. And everybody worked on it from April Greiman to Pentagram and, all kinds of people. And they gave me, my last assignment was doing this brochure for International Typeface Corporation. This was right when computers were coming in with fonts built in. And so this brochure went to like Dell and Hewlett Packard and all the people who make computers to sell them on that ITC typefaces, such as like ICT Century, ITC Garamond, and so forth, should be an avant-garde Gothic should be part of come with every computer. So enough of that. Then we'll go on to some things with Tony. So the Joffrey Ballet was one of my firm's first big clients with kind of high profile exposure in the New York Times and so forth. And I don't even know if I gave Tony a sketch. I just said, I need you to do something cool. It's the Joffrey Ballet. It's their 25th anniversary season, and their tagline is America's All-Star Dance Company. Take it away, Tony. So this is what he did. So everything Tony does was not Spencerian script. And, you look at this and go, it just works. Even though it might look a little dated now, I'm not sure. Does it look...
Nothing I do is dated.
Nothing is ever dated. It lives forever. Now, in those days also, there was always a reverse version, and then there's a version on white. So, and then there's, of course, going to be a black and white version. So we did a series of posters, and so this was like, I felt almost like the right kind of job for me. It had language, it had the typographical logo, and it had art direction of the photography and the concept of one picture of the entire company that we took in 4 parts so that every single dancer has their name and is part of this group. And also the posters could be mixed and matched in different order. And then here's the logo in black and white on this kind of ad ran in the arts section of the New York Times. To buy tickets, it's got the whole program, and I wish I had jobs like this today. They do not go to independent designers. They would go to like Pentagram, gets all of it. And look at this one, Tony, the Joffrey 2 dancers. So this was the famous stat machine, right?
Yeah.
Stat machine, after it was hand lettered, it would have white paint on it and other stuff, and it all got touched up, and then you stuck it in the stat machine, which basically took a super sharp black and white photograph, and then you put it in one of these glassine envelopes, and that's how you delivered it to the client, because you couldn't just send them a JPEG, or an AI file. And they had to send it to their printer. Printers did a lot more work then. Now, what about this one? Where I bet I pasted the theater center together. And this is a Tony DiSpigna typeface.
Serif Gothic, yeah.
Serif Gothic. And, I had really learned how to do the TH thing and the EA thing and the NT thing and, make it all line up. And then I would say, Tony, could you do a beautiful Spencerian O'Neill that I can just pop in this nice little space for it?
I think that maybe Tom did that one, if I'm not mistaken. I don't remember doing that. But anyway. Had you asked me to do it, I would have done it better.
Really? What about this one? Did you do this one?
Nope.
Oh, yes, you. So this was one for another client. You did, I'm sure.
I did that. Yes, I did
Did
that.
this one. And this was cool. This was for an investment banking firm. Now this was a whole brochure about a fund of transportation securities and stuff, but with English and French companies. So I made, it was red, blue, and green, sort of like a Spanish, French flag, when it was in color. So the last few things I wanted to show you mechanicals. This was all pasted together like everything else was, so that this is stuff called Ruby Lith. Ruby Lith, what's that? Wait a second. Every little piece of type, if I show it close up, it is sort of three-dimensional because it's the typesetter printed onto glossy photo repro paper, and you paste it on your mechanical board. And if I can see here, I don't know what this thing is, but I can see here that whether or not a business is successful, maybe there was something that didn't fit on that line and I had to cut it apart. What is this thing? Get out of here. Anyway, so when it gets printed, where it says, we'd send it to the printer on a board with masking tape, with a tissue over it, and it's all perfect and clean. And the printer photographs it and strips it together. So there's instructions here that said, print this area in black and drop this out in white. Now, of course, you would do the whole thing in Illustrator and just email your file to the printer. Uh-oh, this one is so little. What happened? Okay. So this is very little. But even for my corporate clients like American Express, and I did these directories for about 20 years with, and they all had hand-lettered logos. So that was sort of my trademark. This was a very time-consuming project. It became fun. I did golf directories and restaurant directories and so forth, but even like a handmade map or a grass background with a photograph. So, try to make all of it as interesting and as fun as possible. And even with simple type, let's see what we could show with this.
Well, Ellen, so we have about 15 more minutes, and we want to maybe get to maybe some of the questions that maybe Josh and others have prepared for it. But this is
so that was my last picture.
No,
so
that's okay.
I've really shown you,
This has been really a treat going back, and I think that we were talking earlier today, through understanding mechanical process, mechanical board, hand lettering, being meticulous about even putting a tracing paper on top of it, writing the directions. All those are art form, and a lot of times, design really came out of being meticulous about handling those kinds of stuff. Such as putting a white masking tape on top of your tracing paper on a whiteboard, keeping your board clean. And that's just really a good reminder to all of us that the design, how it evolved and so forth. Yet, when we're looking at these kinds of work here, they're timeless. Whether it was done in the 60s, in the 70s, in the 80s, in the 90s even. I mean, they're timeless. It works now. And that's what good design, that's what good typography, that's what, design does to a lot of things. It's timeless. It goes into generation. So thank you very much for sharing this work and we're going to continue to see incredible work, with Peter, with Greg, and Bob, and a number of other people. But why don't we spend about next 10 minutes, 15 minutes or so, Josh, and maybe just kind of asking questions to Tony and then Ellen. I know that you have some questions prepared. And then also, I encourage some of you, many of you are attending in here to, I'll keep an eye on the chat here, Joe and I will. And so see if you have any specific questions, because I know some of you are very interested in topography. So Josh?
Yeah, honestly, thank you so much again. This was honestly a very cool presentation. I didn't realize how much more thought kind of goes into design back then, especially with how much like technology streamlines the whole process with like trying to make sure, just even setting up your print files. I thought that was super cool. But in your presentation, you noted that big corporations often go to large-scale design studios for creative strategic needs. And I was just wondering, for Tony or Ellen, do you have any suggestions and tips for how freelance and independent designers and firms can compete with like firms like Pentagram for these kind of sort of clients that sort of opt to a larger scale company other than like smaller designers?
Well, go ahead. Ellen, go ahead.
You can compete with Pentagram, but here's what I think you can do is sort of become a mini Pentagram yourself. If, let's say that you have a small dance company now as a client, or you do a pro bono job wherever you are, you have to make the work as good as Pentagram's, as clever, as it has to have this aha quality to it. It sort of makes people say, wow, isn't that beautiful? Isn't that exciting? Visually exciting. And also, if you look at Pentagram's website, there's nothing that stands still. Everything is moving. Everything is moving. And changing form and changing color and in many layers. So to be able to do that, there's just so many skills that I don't have. Like, I'd really like to hire somebody who can make my logos move, animate them. So animation is really a big part of graphic design now. My phone's ringing somewhere.
My advice to young people who are graduating is to, as Ellen said before, is to get hired by people who have a reputation, who know what they're doing, so that you can learn from. In other words, don't start, you graduate and you start your own business without getting experience under your belt, so to speak. So work with great people out there, show your portfolio, and indicate that you're willing to do somersaults for them to hire you, and also get hired by a place where you can learn. Your education doesn't stop after you graduate, so it continues on. I'm still learning, but the thing is to get experience under your belt, and then you can branch out when you have the confidence of your own. For example, one of the things that when I graduated, I took a tremendous cut in salary to work for Tom Carnesi, who I knew was working with Herb Lubalin. So, I lost a third of my salary to work for what they offered, and I never regretted it, because it's like you're working at a place where you're learning and getting paid at the same time. Okay, so keep an eye, hit the annuals, the trade publications, see what's going on and what people are doing, and always aim to do better, not just be as good, to do better, so that you can, and believe it or not, you will, if you have talent, you will do better, and be the equal of the Pentagrams and the other studios and the other named designers out there that are doing great work. Eventually, you will be doing great work. You will be in those trade publications and annuals, And that's how you progress.
I think the right word is groundbreaking. That's what they're looking for. Something that no one's ever seen before. Like Paula Scher's work for the Public Theater. No one had ever seen that before. Now it's been copied a million times, but you want to be the one who is copied, not the. But you can start by being inspired, and I because I've written 75 articles for CA magazine, and now they're in their and you have 4 annuals a year: photography, typography, design, and I guess they call it online. And you will get, and people contact me and say, can you do an article about me in CA? Like they're looking for the 8-page profile article. I do not assign those, I don't pick them. CA assigns the articles, and they notice who's doing the groundbreaking work, who's doing the work that has won their awards for a couple of years, whether it's a photographer, an illustrator, graphic designer, typographer. Then they'll say, can you do a profile on so and so, and send me there. And that's really interesting because I've been to a lot of ad agencies, photo studios, and really get behind the scenes and see what people are doing. And I would say that in a size space where Lou Ballon's studio was, where we had 20 people working, as Tony said, 15 to 20, they would have 100 now. Everybody crammed right next to each other on long counters, everybody with a computer, and there are account executives, no matter who the company is. There are people who are selling and who are managing, and there are creative directors. Even the smaller studios have they really have to figure out how to do business today, kind of in a way that Herb didn't and that I didn't back in the day, to be able to compete.
I know we have a couple of other questions in here. Can we, maybe it's Sebastian?
Yeah, I have a question. First of all, I want to say thank you, Tony and Ellen, for coming out and just speaking to us about type. It's really cool to get inspired and see the kind of work you guys are doing. A little bit about me. I'm a fourth year here at CSUN, and I'll be graduating this semester. But a question I have is, I've noticed I kind of do this myself too. Our whole goal when designing, is to capture and inform the audience or whoever it is that we're trying to persuade to do something. I find that there are many times where I get stuck more so on the aesthetic rather than the overall message. Are there any kind of tips that you approach, or I guess your workflow in making sure that obviously your color, your type choice is communicating the message that the client wants to communicate?
That's the key word. You're in the business of communication design, and believe it or not, the word communication becomes above design, because a client comes to you to solve their problem, and because he wants to communicate a message. So design should not get in the way of the message, because keep in mind what the client's objective is, to communicate something and promote something, etc. So the idea is to combine that communication message in a creative, graphic, visual way, and not bore people. And
I see. So when working with the client and trying to cipher out the message that they're trying to, they're going to give you certain words, they're going to give you their ideas. Do you go into it to the detail of like how so say they give you a script about they want to say this, do you guys go in and edit certain phrases you guys don't think that represents the company? Or
no, you don't edit their message, but you have to interpret their message in a way, because they're really telling you what they want, in a sense, when they give you an assignment.
I see.
And you have to do it in a way that's not a cliche, that's not the usual, that's been done 1,000 times before. That's boring. You still have to do it in a way that literally is going to wow people. Because if it's not going to, how do you know when something is really good? You look at it and you say, my God, I wish I had done that. You
Or
know?
you've never seen it before.
Yeah, exactly. It's the best stuff I've ever, whenever I see something that I wish I had come up with, I'm going to remember that person's name and or studio or advertising agency, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what it's all about, to do something uniquely different and unusual and solve the client's message, what the client needs are. Because that's what your client is going to be paying you. So you got to solve his problem. If you get lost in doing your own design thing and so forth and so on, and forget what he's hiring you for, your business is not going to thrive. You'll be out of business soon.
I see.
So I do little tests sometimes. Like when I moved from New York City to Irvington, New York, which is a little sort of leafy suburb about 20 miles up the Hudson, I got an assignment from the local bank who is competing with Citibank and Chase Manhattan Bank and so forth and losing customers. They need a new logo. They did need a new logo. You can see this stuff on my website. It's called visuallanguage.net. So, my current work is up there. So it's visual language with one L, VISUALANGUAGE.net. And for Sunnyside Federal Savings. So as a writer, I have to write headlines for them, but also coming up with a logo. It had to be green and yellow because those were their colors, and it had to be a sun because they're Sunnyside. But I made a bunch of suns, different kinds of suns, and I took them to the local merchants and got on the train platform and showed them to people. Which one do you think communicates Sunnyside Federal better? And I try to do that a lot, and I can do that through email. I'll send like 5 logos that I'm working on. Say it was for a farmer's market, a company that owns farmers markets. Everybody I know who cooks, everybody I know who likes fresh vegetables and fruit, send it to them. Which one of these do you think is best and communicates the idea of down-to-earth markets better? Get a lot of good feedback that way. But here's another thing, whether you're showing it to your teacher in class, whether you're showing it to a potential client or to a potential audience member, never show anything you don't want them to pick, because they're going to pick the one that you hate. One of the design firms that I visited for CA magazine was called Paprika in Quebec, Canada, where I had to bring out all my high school French to communicate with them. Le typographie est si bon. Anyway. La typography, oops. Anyway, so they do incredible work, and they get in the CA Design Annual every year, and the head of the firm said to me, I show one that is great and groundbreaking. I show one that is more standard, but still interesting, and I show one that is kind of traditional, but it's still very good, and let them pick. But still very good is important. That's showing 3. And then other people I've interviewed, Stefan Sagmeister, he is the master. He only shows 1, and he can always sell it. If I were Stefan Sagmeister, I could always sell it too. But, and I've interviewed him a number of times, and he only shows 1 thing. Very few people can get away from that. Ad agencies will say they have to have a whole bunch of options to show to the client. So it just depends who your client is and what kind of business you're in.
Well, we got a couple more questions. I know we got about 5 minutes of time left. Joe, and then followed by Kate.
We could go overtime if we have to, no?
Yeah.
The thing about design, it does not end at 5. If you want to be a 9 to 5 worker where the bell rings at 5 o'clock and you got to go home, forget about it.
Yeah.
If they stay in Brooklyn, forget about it. You are going to be there till 7, 8, 9, 10, all night long, whatever it's going to take. And so there's running over stuff. You know, it's like however long this conversation takes, it takes.
By the way, the most successful people I know, Herb Llewellyn was a workaholic. Seymour Cross is a double workaholic. I mean, the people that produce great work year after year after year, it's because they work their ass off, literally work till midnight. Herb used to work till midnight.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
He used to come in early in the morning at 7 o'clock and often work till midnight. Not every night, but he did work hard.
Absolutely. We've heard that over and over and that. But hold that thought. Then we have another question come in. But let's get Joe to ask questions and then also Kate. Joe?
So we were talking to Tony for weeks now, and then this week he said, well, I don't want to just be known for my Spencerian script. Throw my other work on the website. And we did that. But then I wanted to ask then, why Spencerian? Why was that this passion? Why did you revolve around that? Was that because we were getting asked to do? Did you have a passion for this, or there's other hand lettering you could have done?
Believe it or not, the bulk of my work, when I work as an independent designer, and even Tom Pernays, I would say 60% of the work was in Spencerian. They were done by request, because in those days, our directors were discriminating. Whereas nowadays, set it in any kind of script, but typesetting is a typesetting, and it's not a design. When you typeset something, you have a typeface choice and a size, and that's it. So typesetting is not type designing. Once the type is set, then you have to. A designer takes it and makes it work as a unique whole, and so that. You end up with something that's tailored and beautiful and unique, whether it's a title of a book or a movie or whatever, even a logotype, because these things are going to be permanent once they're done, and you take it as far as possible. Now, I can work on a 3-word headline, like imported from Brooklyn, or a 1-word script, Spencerian, and believe it or not, it can take anywhere from a week to 3 weeks work, depending on, what's involved. So it's not script. It's not like calligraphy. I'm not a calligrapher. It's all built up lettering. And 80% of my time is, as I said in my book, is spent in design development, formulating the characters, marrying them together to come up with this unique look. And 20% is the boring execution part for me. So that's, again, spend time in the design development stage, because once you get to the point where you do finished art, it's done. You don't want to look at it 6 months from now and say, gee, I could have done this and I could have done that. Why didn't I do that? And that's a terrible feeling to have.
Good question. And then thank you. Tony, Kate, you have a question.
Hi, yes. So I'm Kate. Nice to meet you.
Hi.
My question is, what tips do you have for young designers in school who are going to graduate and just transition into the industry?
Well, I would suggest that you get a portfolio together, as we said, that's going to wow people. Statistics say that people look at a portfolio 37 seconds, whether it's a digital portfolio or traditional portfolio, 37 seconds, which means that you really have to have pieces in there that will wow people and make them remember you. Otherwise, they're going to go on to the next person's portfolio. So, it's like putting your best foot forward, but every piece in that portfolio should be terrific, something that you're really confident they feel great about. A headhunter once told me that you could have 20 pieces in your portfolio and one piece is terrible. You know what? They'll remember that terrible piece and forget all the rest.
Right. It means you're not just, you can't tell the difference. They want somebody who can tell the difference, right? And I also, if you're taking fine art classes and you have some your arty black and white photographs and your life drawing and your still life, say you paint, keep them all out of there. I've seen too many just graduated student portfolios that aren't focused on communication design.
Right. In other words, keep your classroom assignments in class. Your portfolio should not have a classroom look to it. I did this in such and such a class, and they should. You have to show problems and solutions very quickly. Visual communication quickly. I've seen portfolios where they write paragraphs next to what they show. Nobody's going to spend time reading what you meant or what's that supposed to communicate. It's called visual communication. You have to get it right away. Problems and solutions.
Right. And if you didn't make up assignments for yourself, look around and say, wow, there's a truck driving around our neighborhood and has the worst logo on the side of the truck.
I do that all the time.
It's a gardener, it's, the electric company, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Redesign it.
Exactly.
Something that people recognize. Oh, look what she was able to do with this. It's so much better than the original. These people would be stupid not to hire her.
That's a great way of doing a portfolio. For example, if you see a lousy campaign, whether it's a film campaign or a print campaign, redo it. Show them what you would have done with that. Okay, so if you see a terrible book jacket, redesign it.
Right.
If you see a terrible, and by the way, it's not difficult to find terrible stuff. I mean, 90% of the stuff out there is really terrible. So it's like I do this all the time with my students. I still do it with myself. I challenge myself. What would I have done if that client came to me?
My picture.
Okay. So that's how you can that's how you can build a portfolio. This is what I mean. Avoid classroom solutions. I used to teach a portfolio class, and I used to take the other classes' solutions that were not brought to portfolio quality solutions, and I made them do it over. So that again, it makes a prospective employer pay attention and remember you. Otherwise, they're going to forget you the moment you walk out of that interview.
That's great advice. Thanks for asking that question. I think that's something that a lot of students could take away here. Josh, so do you have one more question? I know you got that for.
Yeah, I do actually.
Okay.
Okay. 1 second. Oh, so creativity is number 4 out of the 10 skills needed to thrive in the 4th industrial revolution within kind of like this new era of like business and kind of how businesses interact within like the new world. And, as school programs across the nation are implementing their own form of STEAM programs, which are science, technology, engineering, arts, humanities, and mathematics programs. Do you think creativity and passion for our crafts can be taught, or is it something that is inherent within individuals in general? Like, is creativity something that can be taught in a classroom, essentially?
No, I never taught anybody anything. I've been teaching for 50 years, and I keep saying I never taught anybody anything. I just guide whatever talent that they have. They come to class with an assignment I give, and they come to class and they show me stuff, and I show them to take it further, what could be done with that. Okay, so creativity is not a how-to situation where 2 + 2 = 5. In creativity, 2 + 2 equals anything but 5. Okay, so it's a very difficult thing to define, but you got to have a sense of your own worth, a sense of where you're going, and to get to solve a problem. How do you solve a problem? By the way, solving a problem is easy, but solving it creatively is the difficult part. Okay, so and the 9 to 5 solutions to me, you could throw those in a wastebasket. You really have to spend time and do it. I never allowed a student of mine to come up with a solution that could not be put in a portfolio. Okay, because otherwise you're just wasting their time. I would have them redo it again and again till it's well done.
Mhm.
Right.
And you got to have some wow things in that portfolio. If you don't, you're run-of-the-mill, portfolios.
That's great. Ellen, do you have?
I was going to say, like, internships, are very popular. To take an internship at the best firm firm where you'd really like to work, study their work and and be a little bit aggressive about it. I didn't say what one of the reasons that I moved to New York, wasn't just to work for her, but there was no work for women here in LA. I went around to all the design firms, and there weren't that many. There was Robert Miles Runyon, which did corporate identity and annual reports. There was Jim Cross. There were the Eames office. There were not any jobs. And the only women that I saw in any of these places were the receptionist, or they were like wearing mini skirts and bringing trays of white wine around to the clients, the waitresses. It's like it was an all guy thing, and it's totally changed now. There are so many more firms, and there are women owned firms. And so you don't have to leave town. You can stay right here in LA and really study who's doing what and who do you like to work for, and be a little pesky. One of the things that Stefan Sagmeister told me when I first interviewed him was that he really wanted to work for M & Co, for Tibor Kalman. He was in Hong Kong at the time working in an ad agency, and he didn't really like it. And he loved Tibor's work. He said that he was relentless. He called, he wrote, he bothered him. And maybe, I don't know if I would suggest that. But
no, you have to be hungry. You have to really go after what you want.
I really want to work for you.
Exactly.
That is the message. I'm not just looking for a job. I don't want to just make X $1,000s a year, And if anybody came to me looking for a job and would say something like, "What are the hours?" That's like, to me, was like a total turnoff. And you are not working for an accounting firm. Where the hour I can say, "Oh, well, we work from 8:30 till 5." We don't. Just like we said before, we work until we're done, whatever that takes. And even you hire somebody and they're in the middle of doing something and their boyfriend calls, "Well, you got to come home now." Or someone will say, "I have to leave now. I have to do the laundry." It's like, no, this is a design firm. You have to stay here and finish the design and until it's great. And it has to be something you're super passionate about.
You got to show.
You don't want to do the laundry, and even if your boyfriend calls, you're going to see him later because you're still here working.
You got to show them that you're there for them. They're not there for you. You got to show them that you're willing to do somersaults and take work home and work on weekends, and that's what they're looking for. Somebody that I want a person that I can. Have confidence that he's there for me, not me for them.
Thank you for your answer, Tony and Evelyn. I think this discussion has been honestly a very lively one at best, and also it gives a lot of our own seniors and our students time to think during these end times within our school semester. So just thank you again for answering our questions.
Okay, for those, I just want to say for those students, I didn't make a presentation like Ellen did, but for those students who want to see my work, they can go on my website, TonyDispigna.com. They can get a course section of what I do. And my lectures are out there. You can Google search them, etc. So that I just didn't want to repeat the same thing. That's why I didn't make a presentation. But it's available out there.
And I also think that we're willing to spend more time. That if students want to send, at least I would, students want to send me like PDFs, or of their work.
Yeah.
Don't make your presentation 36 page. Show the best 6 things or 10 things or no more than 12 things that you've done. And, you can email them to me and I'd be happy to critique them and give you some advice.
Wow, that's
that would turn a generality into a specific. Generalities are generalities. It's like, oh, well, how is the food? Oh, it was delicious. Or, it really could be better. What does that really mean? Let me say that the steak needs to be cooked better and the vegetables shouldn't be over. You know what I'm saying? It's like we can give you some real specific guidance.
Right. I'll be glad to critique a portfolio. I'll give you the same offer. You can send me stuff at you can give them my email address and I'd be glad to critique their portfolio.
Wow, that's a generous offer. Don't be surprised if you do get a lot of.
No, that's fine.
So, but hey, I know that we've allotted an hour. We went over 20 minutes. I know this is the first session we're doing this, but we're going to be doing this again next 5 more weeks. I think all the people who joined us today, let others know that we have an incredible, topographers and designers who made a huge impact on the field that we're going to be in, where we want to be in. And so we're looking forward to that. But again, Tony and Ellen, this has been not only a journey in learning and history, but just an eye-opening, and just hearing you both talk back and forth brought a lot of memories to me personally, but I'm sure that, others too as well. So we can't thank you both enough for being with us today.
One last thing. When they sent the portfolio to be critiqued, just say critique me in the subject, so that sometimes I don't always click on people because I went through fraud situation and I don't want to get through that. So if they are going to send a portfolio for me to critique, just put critique me in the subject area, okay?
That's good. Josh, so you want to go ahead and wrap it up in here?
Wait, before that, I just want to make sure, Greg's here, Greg Lindy's here. He's a future speaker, and Peter's here, Peter Greco. I don't know if you just want to meet Tony really quick, say hello.
Yeah.
I know
Peter.
Well,
we met already.
Introduced ourselves right at the beginning.
I know,
Greg. I'm glad you gave me a chance to speak. I was going to put that little hand symbol up, but I couldn't figure out how to do it. I just raised my hand. Yeah, I just want to thank you both, Ellen and Tony, so much. Really, I got so much out of your talk, and so much. Ellen, when you were talking about the mechanicals, man, I was having flashbacks. I have a little story similar to yours that I'll talk about next week. And I also wanted to ask you: Are you both planning on attending the meeting next week?
Yes, of course.
Oh, yeah, great. Yeah.
I am.
I mean, to make sure.
Send me the link again. It's the link that you already sent, right, Josh?
It's going to be a new one, Tony.
Oh, okay. So send it to me. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a couple of technical questions too. Well, maybe I'll send you that in your email or your website or something.
Okay.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Greg, I don't know if you just wanted to say hello really quick.
Sure. Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Tony and Ellen, really enjoyed your presentation. Really great to get some stories about the Lou Allen studio and whatnot. So that's really special and context and all of that, because I'm familiar with the work, with your work, especially Tony. So it's good to get that kind of insider's knowledge, and just looking forward to 2 weeks from now. I
2
guess.
weeks, May 6th. You're our speaker May 6th.
Yeah, and the others, like especially you, Peter. I'm looking forward to that. So, and Josh and Dave, this is amazing. Great way to kick all of
I'm going to have to answer.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay.
Okay.
That's
All
it.
right. So we will see everyone next Friday at 5 o'clock. We got
All right.
another great journey, a great story to share. So thank you all very much.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Dave.
guys.
Ellen.
See
Yeah.
you.
Thanks,
Thank you,
everyone.
everyone.
Thank
See you
you.
next week.
Have a good night, everyone.
Thank
Thanks,
you guys.
everyone.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Oh,
Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye.
thank
Bye.
you.